So, out of the new AA systems, guys, what is the best one? Let's try to answer this question today, analyzing it on the dev server. Of course, not everything is ready yet, as you see, of course, with some bugs happening here and there, but we still can have kind of an idea looking what could actually be like when they fix everything, right? So it's kind of a guess, but at the same time, looking at real things. Okay, so let's start with the missiles. The missiles are obviously the main thing that we have in this thing, right? It's the objective of these new AA systems to launch missiles, right? So, of course, with this, we have to start comparing all the missiles that we're gonna have in the game. So let's go back to the hangar and use the spreadsheet made by Kopani and Zabi to try to have an idea and then test it out a little bit. So we're gonna compare, of course, this LAMRAM or CLAWS TADS over here. We're gonna use the IRCCM SLM or SL or whatever you want to call it. We're gonna talk about the TUMSUM, of course. We're gonna talk about the CS SA5. We're gonna talk about the LD98 or the RBS 98 and also the Spider. These are the new AA systems and each has its own abilities and its own goods and bads, okay? But yeah, let's take a look on the missiles. First on this thing. So here we have two missiles, of course, and you can carry what? 8 of the radar ones and 4 of the AIM-9X ones, you know, the IR ones. So you have, you know, a lot of missiles and you can reload them, you know, so it's pretty interesting that you can do that, right? Of course, with the radar missile, we have the M120C5, which is also a missile that is being introduced for air combat. They say here, of course, it has 120 kilometers of range. That wouldn't be the case for now. They are still fixing it. It would still be hard to go above 15 kilometers with this missile right now, but they are still fixing the missile and everything, okay? And the AIM-9X, which is one of the best IR missiles in the game, still doesn't have the most amount of range. Remember, these missiles, they are being launched from 0 speed and 0 altitude, which it's a problem. So yeah, but it is a very good thing. Of course, remember the IRIS-T SLM uses the IRIS-T, you know, with the SLM upgrade. So this is a little bit different. We're gonna take a look on the other IRIS-T, right? But in a general sense, one of the best IR missiles in the game as well. Of course, for Japan, we still use the Type 81 or, you know, whatever you want to call it. We have two versions, the Type 81C, which is the IR version, and the ARH-1C as well, which is a radar-guided one. They are the same missile, very good missile, but of course, remember, one it's radar, one it's IR guided, and they are both the same technically missile that we use here in the Type 81C, right? So the same thing. On the CS5, we have the FB10 and the FB10A. They are okay missiles. We're going to talk about them as well. And of course, in this Swedish one, we have the normal IRIS-T, the RBS 98 in this case, which is a little bit less range, but apparently more turn than the SLM. And then the Spider with its Derby and its Python 5. So let's take a look on the files to properly compare all of them. And then we're going to test them out a bit. So here we are in the files and we can take a look on some of these missiles. For example, the AIM-9X is here. So very interesting. You can see all the data that we have from the actual you know, dev server. There are some things that we need to compare to other missiles over here, so we're gonna try to bring all of the missiles into one thing over here, okay? So for example, the Python 5 and the AIM-9X, they turn 50 Gs. So it's already on par with the best missiles out there in air combat, right? It's already better than something like the R73, right? So for example, 50 Gs, it is going to be 10 Gs more than an R73, which is amazing, right? It really is. We have the IRIS-T SLM with 40 Gs. It is a heavier missile. That's why I think they're putting 40 Gs. People are complaining about this, by the way, because they think it should be better. I don't know. I'm not going to give my opinion. No idea about these technicals, like in real life stuff, and the normal IRST 50Gs. So all of them are already better missiles than what you currently see from the best missiles in air combat. But we have to talk about some of the other missiles, like for example, the FB-10. The FB-10 only turns 20 Gs, so this Chinese missile, for now, it is the worst in the terms of how much it can actually turn, right, compared to some of the others. So it is pretty interesting to see that. So the best ones are the Python, the normal IRST, and the AIM-9X. The middle one is the IRST SLM, and the worst ones is the FB-10s. Okay, these are the case for these IR missiles, which is pretty interesting. But then we can talk about some other things. Let's talk about IRCCM, because of course our IRCCM will be one of the main features of these missiles. Most of them, if not all, let me check. AIM-9X, as you see, they have the FOV, which is the same as in the R73, and the Seeker Shut-Off IRCCM, which is in the same as the AIM-9M. I already talked about this. So basically, it will make the FOV smaller once you get a lock, and after it detects a flare, if it detects a flare, it will shut itself off and then on and off and again to be able to ignore flares, right? So for example, here, the FOV normally will be 5 degrees on the AIM-9X, and then after the lock it will be 0.25, which is an enormous amount of, IRCCM, right? It's a very, 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 very hard to avoid IRCCM, almost impossible, okay? And it has an IR and inertial navigation guidance, which is pretty interesting. What about the other ones? Well, the FB-10 and FB-10A, they both have the same type of IRCCM, so 0.25 on the FOV, with the FOV and Seeker Shut-Off, so the same as the AIM-9X, but they only have IR guidance at first, and they use the same field of view initially. So it's a very similar missile in the terms of IRCCM, but it doesn't have an inertial navigation system, and it turns less. If we compare to something like the IRST SLM over here, again, it does have the same IRCCM, and it has not only inertial navigation, but also a data link to the radar, which is also pretty interesting. Of course, this missile, remember, it is a missile that has aerodynamic cap on top of the missile to be able to be more aerodynamic, and then releases that. So when it's flying with the cap, it needs data link from the main radar, but it does have the same IRCCM. And then the last ones, the Python 5 and the RB98 over here, they have both the same guidance as the AIM-9X and the same IRCCM. So you can see that all the missiles have equal IRCCM, with the IRST SLM being the best on the terms of guidance because it has a data link, so it shall be a little bit more easier to not miss targets at the initial stages of the launch. But even then, it's not that important in these missiles, but it's still pretty interesting. I would still take the Python 5 and the AIM-9X and maybe the normal IRST as the best short-range missiles, and you will see why I talk about short-range missiles afterwards, right? But yeah, so same guidance, basically, just different turning capabilities. Let's talk about energy then. Of course, these will all be changed throughout the flight, and once it is in StatShark, we can actually properly take a look on how these graphs would look with the drag that they have. But let's take a look on engine performance, because this will try to dictate how fast these missiles go, how far away they go. And look at this. Then we have a pretty interesting thing. AIM-9X is having 900 total meters per second of delta V. So we don't know exactly the drag that these missiles have, but just taking apart, the thrust that the missile has, you will compare to the FB-10A, for example, it has almost twice as much. So it means that something like the FB-10A, we don't know about the drag yet, but it will mean that this missile will probably be the longest flying missile compared to the AIM-9X, right? If we take a look on the SLM, closer to the FB, way better than the AIM-9X. If you take a look on the Python, way better as well, together with the IRST SLM. And then it's where the normal IRST suffers, right? So you can see that the IRST SLM takes it out from the turning capability, apparently, to be able to have more range. Okay, that's kind of the idea here. And this is what you're gonna see. Let's go back to the game. You will see that, for example, some of these missiles will be better for short range, It is the case for the AIM-9X of the Slam Ram. So it will be amazing in the short range. We can even try the missile a little bit. So we can test it out basically doing kind of an off-board shooting. Look how much turn it has, even at the early stages of the turn, of the firing solution. It's kind of crazy how much it actually can do. So, I mean, look at this. Yeah, it just turns like nothing else, right? So it is a pretty interesting thing. So for short ranges, for example, the AIM-9X is going to be one of the best ones because it is a lighter missile. It is a very easy missile to start, flying. And yeah, it's going to be great. One of the other ones that it's going to be amazing at short range is the IRCCM, the normal one, and also the Python 5 of the Spider, right? So you can see that these missiles will be able to turn the most at a short distance. But at the same time, something like the IRCCM SLM will be better for the longer ranges, okay? So if you fire from a longer period of distance, the IRCCM SLM will be better than these other ones, and especially the CSSA5, right? So these one will probably be the best. I have to take into account that I didn't see the drag of these missiles, so it might be a little bit different. But in a general sense, looking from afar, the FB-10A will be the best missile for long ranges and not for short ranges. And this is okay because for short ranges, you have a gun. So it's okay, right? While the other ones, the IRCCM, some of the other ones over here, they will be better for longer ranges and they will be good for shorter ranges as well. While some of the other ones, like the Python 5, will be amazing at short ranges, maybe not as good as for longer ranges, but it depends on situation as well, right? Because remember, guys, these AA systems have radar missiles as well, right? So at the end of the day, it depends very much on how you are actually playing. And just for you to kind of have an idea of how much these missiles will actually suffer from being launched from a zero perspective, like zero speed, zero altitude, I have here stat chart that doesn't have yet the new IR missiles, but we can test something. The Derby missile of the Spider and AIM-120C5 of the Slam Ram, which are both of the radar missiles. Of course, we have the Type 81 as well, but that one is basically the same as the normal IR version, so it doesn't matter too much. But yeah, I'm launching them from basically a zero altitude, zero speed, with a target that is flying at 1,000 kilometers per hour at 5 kilometers altitude, at a distance of 20 kilometers and a launch angle of 30 degrees. And see how bad these missiles become. Basically, they almost don't get the target. They will get the target, but they barely will get 10 kilometers of distance on the amount of range that we have here. Look at this. The missiles are barely getting there. They're already very slow. If we take a look here, I mean, look at this. The missile, it's already at Mach 1 at less than 10 kilometers. This is how bad it is for these missiles to try to do this. They will eventually catch them, but look at this. It's very, it's below Mach 1 already. It means that, for example, the Derby is pretty much useless because if the target turns, it will be, it will miss. So this is how bad, I mean, it can get these distances, but it is just very, very hard. So you can imagine, I don't know if they're gonna change or not, but this is how bad it's gonna be. If it's like really not that high, for example 3,000 meters, it will be better. Of course, the higher it is, the worse it will be. But in a general sense, these missiles won't be the best thing ever because of that, because they are being fired from 0-0. But remember this, guys, in something like an AIM-9X, you will not have the range of an IRCCM SLM, okay? But then, what do you have in this Slam Ram that can actually do these ranges? Well, the AIM-120C5. And this is the point that I was trying to get over here, guys. Although, yes, some of these AA systems, they might not have the best IR missile, but they do have radar missiles. The Spider and the Slam Ram are contenders to be the best because they have both worlds, right? It's basically a very, very good AA system because you have the radar missiles to be able to fire from, high altitude targets. and you have the AIM-9Xs and Python 5s to be able to fire for the short range ones or very close ones. That's why I think, honestly, together with some other things, that the SlamRam might be the best one. I was leaning towards the IRCCM SLM, but after they changed how much the missile turned and everything, it's not that it's a bad missile, it's not, and it's almost impossible to avoid it, but I have a feeling that at the end of the day, if you have the best of both worlds, it will be the better choice for in-game purposes. So, although there are some problematic things, I kind of have a feeling that the SlamRam will be the best one. Just because of that. It will have a lot of missiles. It basically have, you know, what, 12 missiles, basically, on the first thing. You can reload them. Something like, for example, I don't think the IRCT can do, for now at least. Not the normal, like the SLM one. And this is a very nimble vehicle, a very light vehicle that can get up to speed very quickly, and it can hide itself very quickly as well. You will be able to hit targets that are 10 kilometers away, technically, depending on the altitude. For now, at least, I don't know if they're gonna buff or not, with the AIM-120. And with the AIM-9X, you can hit targets that are very close. Am I saying the SLM is gonna be worse, or that, I mean, I'm saying that it's going to be worse, but am I saying that it's going to be bad? No, I'm not saying that it's going to be bad. Am I saying the Spider isn't going to be good? Maybe it will be even better on the Ace side of things, but it's such a huge vehicle that it will get killed very easily. The CS SA5, I mean, it has a gun, which helps a lot, but you need good missiles. And those missiles, I gotta be honest, I don't like them too much. It's missiles that can do well, but at the end of the day, they're very good for long ranges, and they have a pretty interesting IRCCM. But at the end of the day, guys, it's a little bit problematic, isn't it? So I kind of have a feeling that the best one will be, because of all these factors, this SlamRam. It will have the best of both worlds, a radar missile that can do above 10 kilometers, technically, you know. It's complicated, like I said, they're still messing with the ranges and everything. And you can still do targets that are very close to it. I don't think it's ready, but I have a feeling that the SlamRam will be the best one. IRCCM SLM, probably I would put it close nearby, and the Spider as well, especially the Spider. But yeah, the SLM probably in the second, like the in third position after the Spider. And then of course the normal IRCT, because it's going to be amazing at short ranges, but it only has 4 missiles and then you have to reload. It has a very easy tank to kill. It doesn't have any mobility whatsoever, and you know, it has only one type of missile, which is, like I said, just a very short range missile. And then the Chinese, I would put it last, because the gun in these BRs can be kind of useless if normally, you know, and if the targets know what they're doing, the gun will be useless. And the missiles are going to be basically problematic, although they have an amazing IRCCM and they're not ready yet as well. I have a feeling that it's gonna be a kind of a weird vehicle to use, because the missile doesn't turn very well, and of course the vehicle itself is very easy to kill as well, very large, right? So I just have this feeling that this SlamRam will be the perfect choice. Even if you don't have a lot of AIM-9Xs, it is still pretty good. And I just realized one thing, that I cannot reload these missiles with a box. So that's something to take into account. But doesn't matter too much. You still have 12 missiles, which is plenty, and you have a mixed match of them. So you have less missiles than an IRCT SLM, but at the same time you have radar and IR, right? And the SLM is kind of in the between, right? And the AIM-9X turns more. It's just complicated to not choose this one as the better one for now that I see. Might be completely wrong, and you tell me in the comments what you think, but I just have a feeling that the AIM-120C5 together with the AIM-9X, with the mobility, with the lightweightness of these vehicles, the fast pace vehicles that you can hide anywhere, is just going to be probably the best AA system in the game. All the other ones are going to be amazing. Better than the Panzer, we're gonna have to wait and see. Some of them maybe, some of them maybe not. But yeah, I just have a feeling that it is just going to be better. Okay, so this is my opinion. Let me know yours in the comments down below, and I see you guys on the next one. Sorry for the long video, but yeah, I really needed to talk about all the missiles for you to take a proper look, right? So yeah, see you guys, bye.